So here we have a plum Rockaway. I actually started cleaning up this head a while back and put it to the side. It had some pretty severe mushrooming on the pole when I first got it, so I had taken a lot of that off, but it wasn't how I liked it. Plus I've come to a different way that I like to do it. So on this one I'm getting it finished up and going to hang it on a 28-inch Hoffman curved handle, which is absolutely gorgeous. Right now we're just really being careful not to touch the cheeks of the axe with that belt. Now we're going over it with a 220 grit sandpaper. I like to kind of come up on the pole from the cheek and smooth out that line where the mushrooming was. So it's still going to be obvious where it was mushroomed out, but it's not that crisp line like you regularly see whenever someone just takes a file or a sander to it. So after I get it smoothed out, I hit it with some Scotch-Brite, and it cleans up some of those lines, and I do that on both sides. My youngest coming home from school, touched her on the chin there, and I totally smeared some black metal dust from the sanding on her chin there. It was kind of funny. Now what we're doing here is we're going to a 400 grit sandpaper and smoothing it out a little bit. I did this on the other side as well, but I've tried to shorten these clips a little bit so I can keep these videos less than 10 minutes. So I hit it with the 220, and that's where I really removed a lot of the material from the pole. But then whenever I was done with that part, I went to a 400 grit just to smooth everything out and go over the whole thing a little bit, just to kind of give it a consistent look before hitting it with the Scotch-Brite and hit it with some WD-40 as well, wipe it off. At this point, final weight is 4.35 pounds, so it's kind of a beefy one. Now, what I'm doing here is I like to take painter's tape and I'll lay it over the eye and mark it out with a pencil, and then cut it out with a pair of scissors, and then I'll set it on the top of the handle. So anyone that's ever used a Hoffman handle or even the Killinger French curve, you'll know that they leave a lot of material that needs to be removed. So this helps with getting an eye for what you need. I did cut that part out, and it's honestly just a lot of really boring shaving and sanding to get the right fit. Now what I'm doing here is on the bottom of the axe handle here, just shaping it a little bit. I like to have a nice round finish, or a round look. They look cool as is, but they're just kind of blocky at the bottom. So I'm just trimming off some of that material with my bandsaw to get a rough look. Now I'm cutting in the kerf. One of the things I like to do is take my belt sander and run it into that kerf and smooth it out. Bandsaw always leaves some ridges. Some people might say that's better to let the adhesive grip to, but I like to just smooth it out. Now here I'm hitting it with a 400 grit sandpaper, cleaning up any marks that were left from where I was originally shaping this eye. I have already test fit, so I know that this is right about where I want it to be, but now I'm just looking at it with the kerf cut. Now I'm coming over, I've got a piece of black walnut. I'm just going to cut a wedge out of this. Take it over to my edge sander, smooth that out a little bit. I have a oopsie here in a second. I flip it around and it gets away from me. It's kind of a scary thing, but fortunately I didn't lose anything. No skin was lost. Now what we're doing here is I'm gluing it up, and I go to set it in here and I realize that this wedge is too wide. So you'll see some trial and error here as I trim this thing down, I think 3 times. I think I noticed a little bit of curl over on the wood there that I removed. But anyway, you'll see here, now I'm like, oh, it's too long. So in the device it goes, take a cut. Still too long, take another cut. Now this is an old pull saw. I have repaired this thing a few times, but it came apart on me. I'm gonna have to fix it again. Now I just use my chisel and take another piece and another piece. So I think, I guess it was four times I went back to trimming, but it's like my dad always joked around, you know, I've cut it twice and it's still too short. So this is obviously another day. Youngest came home from school. She wanted to help a little bit, driving that wedge in. Those of you that don't know, I have 4 daughters, so I'm a little bit outnumbered at my house. Just say I went and I grabbed my other pole saw to cut that wedge off. Now I'm going to take a 60 grit, sand that down so I can really get a look at what I've got going on here. At this point I'm sharpening my chisel on the belt sander. Don't judge me. Take it over to my strop, get rid of that. Over here, trim it up a little bit. Didn't take much on this one, but I always like to make these look as pretty as possible. It's the vanity in me, I guess. Or the perfectionist, I don't know. What I do now is I go to my file and I smooth that out a little bit, and I think I go to a 400 grit and then an 800 grit on the palm sander just to really shine this thing up. Now I could have probably left this thing without any oil and it would have been just as glossy, but we went ahead and oiled it anyway. I know everybody likes to see that shot. You see how shiny it is without any oil. The oohs and the ahs. Love how that grain just pops. It's so pretty. Now we're going over to my edge sander and just shaping out the knob of this axe here. I had roughed it in on the bandsaw earlier. Now I'm just shaping it up to give it that nice rounded look. I was really happy with how it turned out. I think I have a still shot of it at the end of this video if you stick around. Probably should have moved my bandsaw back a little bit. Had to kind of work around the table there. Now we're doing the money shot here. Gonna put a coat of oiled linseed oil mixed with tung oil and some black walnut oil-based stain. Now at this point, my oldest daughter had came home. I think she'll walk around here in a second. I think we do a little video here. She wanted to do a little modeling with it, but here it is finished. I was really happy with how this turned out. Beautiful, beautiful axe. Feels great in the hand. There's the bottom there. It looks great. Stick around for another video next time. We'll see what we have next.